Now, the gentleman who had this story to tell and who was an official on the interagency committee dealing with this specifically, who was going to testify in front of these members of Congress at that private meeting I set up in 1997, he told me that this was the most difficult thing he'd ever done because he felt like he was betraying some of his brothers in the intelligence community, but he felt the world needed to know. That night, he was sequestered out of the West End Hotel by people who he had worked with back in the 70s and taken to an undisclosed location out in Virginia, and he never returned, and we've never heard from him since. He left a note under my assistant's door, Sherry Adamak, saying that I have to leave. The people who I've worked with are begging me not to go forward with this testimony, and they are begging for time for them to get this under control and stand it down. Unfortunately, I do not think he succeeded. I think these rogue elements have prevailed since 1997. It's almost 20 years later. And for that reason, we are in mortal danger of being deceived by this. Now, am I saying that all people who have had contact with ETs have been abducted by humans? No. I'm saying, though, that if you have trillions of dollars and the kind of technologies I've been referring to, and you have the intent to masquerade and simulate an alien contact abduction event, you can do it. So that is one of the chief issues that we have to begin to think about. What part of what we hear about in the UFO and internet and movies and books is ET, interstellar? What part is counterintelligence and propaganda and conditioning events by the intelligence community and by the deep, 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 darkest parts of this rogue community that have betrayed the United States and every other country on earth? Well, I'm telling you that their stagecraft, as they call it, is so good that there are very few people who would not be deceived by it. Which means that we have to approach every account we hear, every event that happens, with extraordinary, scrupulous skepticism. And we are not being skeptical enough. Now, I know I'm building a very long bridge for you to go over, and I apologize for that. And it's not my fault that you've been lied to for 70 years. As I was preparing to come here, my sort of gut check on this is that what is the right thing for me to do? And that is to send up a call, like Paul Revere. The British are coming. Well, the British are fine now, but this is coming. And let's not get fooled again. Now, I want to talk about another level of this, and this is a more complex one than what I've shared. And that is the electromagnetic systems, human-controlled, that affect consciousness and the human experience. Back in 1994, I met a man who headed up a research and development effort in the 50s. And he had developed an electronic system so that you could put on a headset and alter anyone, not a trained psychic, but anyone, so that they could remote view through consciousness the field of mind any place on earth. He offered this system to me as the director of CSETI, the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, because our prime mission is to create a time of universal peace and open contact. And we use remote viewing, but we use the more innate capability, meditative faculties, as you probably know. And I said, no, I don't want that, because that's going to lend itself to being misused. And he says, you're very wise. It has been misused. So after he developed it, the CIA set up a front company, I believe he called it Alphametric Corporation, that bought this technology and then took it in subterranean and has been developing it ever since. So he said, you know, we developed this so well that we can target somebody with an electromagnetic field that has embedded in it like a script or a hologram or a series of experiences, like a lucid dream. And that person will believe it's real. And it'll be indistinguishable from reality. And I am quoting now from this senior scientist. He said, it is so good that if we want you to have a personal conversation with your personal God, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, whoever it is, you'll have it, you will think it's real, and you will absolutely pass a lie detector test that it happened. That's how good it is. Now that was fully operational in 1956, 60 years ago. So now you combine that with the conventional stuff like MK Ultra. Everybody know the song, Muse, the rock group did a song called MK Ultra. But the MK Ultra stands for mind control, K like German control. And it was acknowledged CIA program. It came out during the Senator Church hearings back some years ago in the 70s, I believe. And they were using, what they acknowledged through those hearings was they were using LSD and other things to do mind control. The part of it that did not get acknowledged in the church hearings on Capitol Hill is what I'm discussing now. That was kept secret. And that's the electromagnetic systems. Some people call these radionic and psychotronic systems that can affect consciousness. They can also affect biological systems. They can induce cancers. They can induce heart attacks. They can do a lot of nasty stuff with these weapons. And they have. So just you be aware that that level, this is now going into a deeper level of operational capability than, let's say, these anti-gravity craft. Because now you combine this with chemical hallucinogenic systems, electromagnetic mind-altering targeting systems, the stagecraft or program life forms, or small people who are made up to look like an ET, and boy, can you fool a lot of folks. So this that I'm talking about right now, I was pulled aside by someone and said, if you continue to talk about this, you are putting your life in peril. We're going to not tolerate it. Now that was in 1994 also, because this is the deepest part of the secrecy around this subject. Nobody wants to talk about it. No one wants to acknowledge it. If you do talk about it, they think you're wearing a tinfoil hat. And you know, you're going to get ridiculed, you're going to be debunked, and the UFO believers are going to hate you because they've bought into certain paradigms of us versus them and all this stuff that's in the pop culture and internet and movies and documentaries, and it's all a hoax. And the intelligence community is going to hate you. The public can't get their mind around it. It's a lose-lose-lose situation for a gentleman like myself. And, but I still feel compelled that you need to know the truth. A few people need to hear this who can be prime movers and help us. We're running out of time. And I think that this is why when I first got involved with this, I was early on, and I want to set the record straight on this, invited out to Lawrence Rockefeller's ranch out in the Tetons. And unfortunately, people call this the Rockefeller Initiative and this and that. What it was, and you can look this up online, it was Project Starlight. And Project Starlight I started in 1993 to put together people who would be whistleblowers and military witnesses and put the best available evidence together to get to the President and members of Congress to let them know about this. Now, Lawrence Rockefeller and I had a very private discussion on his deck that one of the nights we were all gathered out there. And I asked him, I said, we need someone like you to lead this up. I have 4 young children, and I'm full-time in an emergency department taking care of life and death things 60, 80 hours a week. I really don't have time to do this. And he said, no, I won't do it. You have to do it. And I said, are you out of your mind? I'm a country doctor in North Carolina, rambling around in an ER. And I said, this is not something I should be doing. You're a Rockefeller. And I literally said, look, Lawrence, you're old, you're rich, and you're a Rockefeller. Just like that. And I'm very blunt. And one of my uncharming aspects, I'm very direct. But he said, no, my family, referring to David Rockefeller, his brother, who was head of Chase Manhattan Bank, who's part of this cabal, and his nephew, Jay Rockefeller, who was chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, also a member of the cabal, are jumping up and down on my nuts. And I'll just say that's what he said. Now, other times I've said my toes, but that's what he said. And I said, well, you know, I'm sorry about that, but blood's thicker than water. And he wouldn't do it. So he's played a support role, and we began to organize this effort. And in 1995, we had the Asilomar gatherings near Monterey, where we had KGB people, cosmonauts, military witnesses come together. We signed, many of us, not everyone, the Project Starlight document that went to the president. The Associated Press sued. It got released. It's on the website. Go see it. This is all a matter of public record. But what Lawrence Rockefeller said to me is that not only was his family upset, but it was too dangerous for him to do. And he begged me to just go ahead and do it. And with his hands, he made interestingly, a shape like this. Like this object. And he made like this, and he said, it's like a flock of geese flying along. And I want to be back here. You know, and I'll be back here. We need someone up here. I said, yes, but geese, when they do this, they take turns rotating because because they're taking the headwind. And he laughed. He says, well, too bad. So that, you know, the rest is sort of, as they say, history. But in these sort of corridors, there are a lot of very good people who really do want to see this resolved, but they don't know what to do about it. And I've concluded it cannot be resolved by these elites. It's got to be resolved by us. We've got to get educated about this. We need more whistleblowers to step forward confirming this information, like this Air Force intelligence officer who did an astonishing 3.5-hour interview. Now, only a few minutes of it can be in this 2-hour documentary that's coming out. So I'm going to, after that comes out, we're going to put the entire interview out for people to see. The entirety of it. Be stunning, shocking. But at the same time, we need to understand that if we can put out a warning call, all of you listening, to our friends, our neighbors, we can perhaps avert this disaster. And because putting the sunshine on this and exposing it neutralizes the threat. There's no element of surprise if we come out with information, and more people do, like Mr. Schratt, showing what these aircraft that men are making at the Skunk Works and at Northrop and at Boeing are, and what their capabilities are. But we also need more people like these whistleblowers. Now, there's a whole group of people. I'm not going to go through all this. I'm going to hold up a few of them who are part of a group who have been exposing the electronic warfare systems. You know, here we have an NSA veteran, Naval Academy graduate, a practicing physician who is targeted with these weapons, a whistleblower from DARPA, U.S. Army officer in physics, a whole group of people I have here who have come forward with these electromagnetic weapon systems and how innocent people have been victimized, targeted by them. And being one of those people, and I've been someone who has been targeted with these systems, I can tell you that if you know they exist, you won't be fooled by them. If you don't know they exist, you will. This is why, you know, in the Vedas it says knowledge is the greatest purifier. If we have knowledge, then we can discern. If we have no knowledge and no information and we're in the dark, we can be deceived